You turn the key on a freezing morning, and within 10 seconds, you rev the engine to warm it up faster. That sound you love? It's the sound of metal grinding against metal with almost zero protection. MIT's engine lab found that a single cold start with immediate throttle causes the same wear as 500 miles of normal driving. The first 60 seconds after ignition determine whether your engine lasts 100,000 miles or 300,000 miles. Today, I'm exposing 9 deadly winter starting mistakes plus one bonus tip that destroy engines silently. Most drivers make at least 3 of these errors every single morning. Here's what's actually happening under your hood. Mistake 9, thinking oil flows normally in freezing temperatures. When temperatures drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, your engine oil doesn't flow, it crawls. SAE testing shows that 10W40 oil increases viscosity by 600% at 0 degrees compared to its normal operating temperature. Think of it like trying to pump cold honey through a straw. Your oil pump is working overtime, but the oil isn't reaching critical components fast enough. Camshafts, valve lifters, and piston rings are grinding with minimal lubrication for those first 30 to 45 seconds. Here's the kicker. Modern engines have tighter tolerances than engines from 20 years ago. The gap between moving parts is measured in thousandths of an inch. When thick cold oil can't fill those gaps quickly, metal-on-metal contact creates microscopic scoring. Over time, this cumulative damage leads to worn bearings, damaged cylinder walls, and catastrophic failure. Bosch Automotive research documented that 75% of engine wear occurs during cold starts, not highway driving. This is why winter starts are so critical. Your engine is most vulnerable when it's cold, and what you do in that first minute either protects it or destroys it. Mistake 8, revving a cold engine to warm it up faster. The moment you hit the gas pedal on a cold engine, combustion chamber pressure jumps from 150 psi at idle to over 1000 psi under load. But here's the problem. Your oil pressure hasn't stabilized yet. It takes 15 to 20 seconds for oil to reach full system pressure in cold conditions. During those seconds, if you're revving, you're forcing pistons, connecting rods, and crankshafts to handle extreme loads without adequate lubrication film. API technical bulletins specify that engines need 30 to 60 seconds of idle time to establish proper oil pressure and distribution before any throttle input. When you rev early, you're essentially asking your engine to sprint before it's even finished waking up. The connecting rod bearings take the worst hit. These components rely on hydrodynamic lubrication, a thin film of pressurized oil that separates metal surfaces. Without full pressure, that film collapses, and you get direct metal contact. Race engineers understand this principle deeply. Formula One teams warm engines to 176 degrees before revving, even though those engines cost millions and are rebuilt after every race. If professional racing protects cold engines religiously, why would you treat your daily driver differently? The first minute determines the next 100,000 miles. Mistake 7, driving immediately before fuel vaporizes properly. When your engine is cold, fuel doesn't vaporize properly. In normal operating conditions, at 195 degrees Fahrenheit, gasoline atomizes into a fine mist that mixes perfectly with air for complete combustion. But at 32 degrees or below, fuel stays in liquid droplets that splash onto cylinder walls instead of burning efficiently. This creates 2 massive problems simultaneously. First, incomplete combustion produces excessive carbon deposits on intake valves, spark plugs, and combustion chambers. A 2023 study by the Society of Automotive Engineers found that cold starts produce 500% more carbon monoxide and unburned hydrocarbons compared to warm operation. This isn't just an emissions problem. Those deposits reduce performance, trigger misfires, and decrease fuel economy over time. Second, and more dangerous, liquid fuel washes away the protective oil film on cylinder walls. Your pistons rely on a microscopic layer of oil to prevent scoring as they move up and down. When raw fuel dissolves that layer, you get accelerated cylinder wear and piston ring damage. This is called fuel dilution, and it's one of the leading causes of premature engine failure in cold climates. The solution? Let the engine idle until the coolant temperature gauge moves off the bottom mark before driving. Mistake 6, ignoring turbocharger warm-up requirements. If you drive a turbocharged vehicle, the first 60 seconds are even more critical. Turbochargers spin at 100,000 to 250,000 RPM and rely entirely on pressurized engine oil for both lubrication and cooling. When you start cold and immediately accelerate, you're asking the turbo to spool up before adequate oil flow reaches the bearing assembly. This is mechanical murder. Garrett, one of the world's largest turbo manufacturers, explicitly states in their technical documentation that turbos must receive stable oil pressure for at least 30 seconds before boost operation. The turbo's shaft floats on a thin film of oil. Without proper pressure and viscosity, the shaft makes contact with the housing, causing shaft play and bearing wear. A damaged turbo costs $1,500 to $3,000 to replace, and most failures trace back to improper warm-up procedures. Modern turbos also use water-cooled bearing housings that need coolant circulation to prevent heat soak. But coolant doesn't flow efficiently when cold. Professional tuners and racing teams always warm turbocharged engines to at least 140 degrees oil temperature before boost. If you're daily driving a turbo car, give it 60 seconds of idle, then drive gently for the first 5 minutes. Your turbo will last the life of the car. Mistake 5. Shifting into drive before transmission fluid warms up. Your engine isn't the only component suffering during cold starts. Automatic transmission fluid also thickens dramatically in freezing temperatures. At 0 degrees Fahrenheit, ATF viscosity can increase by 300 to 400%, which means your transmission struggles to shift smoothly. If you put the car in drive and immediately accelerate hard, you're forcing cold, thick fluid through narrow valve bodies and clutch packs. ZF, the transmission manufacturer for BMW, Mercedes, and many others, recommends a minimum 3-minute warm-up period before normal driving in temperatures below 40 degrees. During those first minutes, the transmission operates in a protective mode with delayed shifts and reduced line pressure to prevent damage. When you override this by accelerating aggressively, you create excessive clutch wear and valve body scoring. The most vulnerable component is the torque converter. This fluid coupling relies on smooth ATF flow to transfer power from the engine to the transmission. Cold, thick fluid causes shuddering, slipping, and overheating. Over time, this leads to torque converter failure, which costs $800 to $2,000 to replace. The simple fix? Let the car idle for 60 seconds, then drive gently for the first few miles until the transmission warms up. Mistake 4. Forcing rapid temperature changes on metal components. Here's something most drivers never consider. Engine components are made from different metals that expand at different rates when heated. Your engine block is typically cast iron or aluminum, while pistons are usually forged aluminum alloy. When you cold start and immediately rev, you're forcing rapid temperature changes before these components reach thermal equilibrium. Aluminum expands at roughly twice the rate of cast iron when heated. During a cold start, if you immediately load the engine, the pistons heat up faster than the cylinder walls. This creates temporary clearance issues where the piston can slap against the cylinder wall or, worse, lose proper sealing with the compression rings. Mercedes-Benz engineering documents specify that engines need 2 to 3 minutes of idle time to allow even thermal expansion across all components. The head gasket takes the worst punishment. It seals the junction between the cylinder head and engine block, two components expanding at different rates. Rapid heating from aggressive cold starts creates uneven clamping pressure, which can lead to head gasket failure. Symptoms include coolant leaks, white exhaust smoke, and overheating. Replacement costs $1,500 to $3,000. Let the engine warm gradually, and these components will last forever. Mistake 3. Starting your engine before the catalytic converter is ready. Your catalytic converter is an emissions control device that requires minimum operating temperature of 400 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit to function. Below that threshold, it's essentially a metal pipe doing nothing. When you start cold and immediately drive away, your exhaust system is pumping unburned hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide straight through the cat without conversion. This creates two problems. First, accumulated unburned fuel in the cat can ignite suddenly when temperatures rise, causing substrate damage or complete failure. Catalytic converters contain precious metals like platinum, palladium, and rhodium arranged on a ceramic honeycomb. Thermal shock from rapid heating or fuel ignition can crack this substrate, destroying the cat. Replacement costs $1,000 to $2,500 depending on your vehicle. Second, cold start emissions are killing your cat slowly. EPA studies show that the first 30 seconds of a cold start produce more emissions than 30 minutes of highway driving. All those unburned hydrocarbons coat the catalyst surface, reducing efficiency over time. Modern cars have secondary air injection systems or electric preheaters to bring cats online faster, but they still need 60 to 90 seconds to activate. Let your engine idle briefly before driving. Mistake 2. Demanding full electrical power from a cold battery. Cold weather doesn't just affect oil and fuel. Your battery loses 30 to 50% of its cranking power when temperatures drop below freezing. At 0 degrees Fahrenheit, a fully charged battery operates at roughly 50% capacity. This is why weak batteries fail on the first cold morning. But even if your battery starts the car, the electrical system is under massive stress during those first 60 seconds. Alternators work harder in cold weather because battery charging efficiency drops and electrical loads increase. Your heated seats, defrosters, wipers, and lights are all drawing power simultaneously. If you immediately rev the engine, you're forcing the alternator to output maximum amperage before oil has properly lubricated its bearings. Premature alternator failure is directly linked to aggressive cold starts, according to Bosch electrical system research. The starter motor also suffers. Cold engine oil increases rotating resistance by 200 to 300%, which means your starter draws more current to crank the engine. Repeated aggressive cold starts with extended cranking drain the battery and overheat the starter. Professional mechanics recommend a 60-second idle period to allow the charging system to stabilize before adding electrical loads. This extends both battery and alternator life significantly. Mistake 1. Ignoring direct injection engine vulnerabilities in cold weather. If you drive a car built after 2010, chances are it has gasoline direct injection, or GDI. These engines spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber at 2000 psi or higher instead of into the intake manifold. GDI offers better fuel economy and power, but it has one critical weakness: carbon buildup on intake valves. Traditional port injection washes valves with fuel, keeping them clean. GDI doesn't. Cold starts accelerate this carbon accumulation because fuel doesn't vaporize completely, and blow-by gases condense on cold valve surfaces. A 2024 study by the Automotive Research Center found that GDI engines accumulate carbon 300% faster when subjected to frequent short trips and aggressive cold starts. This carbon restricts airflow, causes misfires, and reduces power. Cleaning costs $300 to $800 and requires walnut shell blasting or chemical treatment. The fix is surprisingly simple. Let your GDI engine idle for 60 seconds before driving, then keep RPMs below 3,000 for the first 5 minutes. This allows proper fuel vaporization and reduces blow-by. Some manufacturers now recommend Italian tune-ups, occasional high RPM runs once fully warm, to burn off deposits. But prevention starts with those first 60 seconds. Protect your valves, protect your engine. Bonus tip: using the wrong oil viscosity for winter conditions. Winter cold starts become significantly less destructive when you use the correct oil viscosity for your climate. Most manufacturers specify 5W30 or 5W20 in owner's manuals. But that first number, the W stands for winter, determines how fast oil flows when cold. A 0W20 oil flows 50% faster at 0 degrees than 5W30, getting to critical components much quicker. Brands like Mobil 1, Castrol Edge, and Liqui Moly offers 0W oils that meet modern APISP and ILSAC GF6 specifications. These synthetic formulations include friction modifiers and anti-wear additives that protect during cold starts. European manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes specify 0W-30 or 0W-40 for cold climates. If you live where temperatures regularly drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, switching to a lower winter viscosity makes a measurable difference. But viscosity alone isn't enough. Oil change intervals matter in winter. Cold starts increase fuel dilution and moisture contamination in your oil. Bosch recommends reducing oil change intervals by 20 to 30% if you make frequent short trips in cold weather. Fresh oil with proper viscosity, combined with a 60-second warm-up, gives your engine maximum protection when it's most vulnerable. The first 60 seconds after you turn the key determine whether your engine dies at 150,000 miles or runs past 300,000. Cold starts are the single most destructive event your engine experiences, and what you do in that first minute either protects it or kills it slowly. Let it idle for 60 seconds. Drive gently for the first 5 minutes. Use the right oil for your climate. It's that simple. Drop your car model and location in the comments, and I'll tell you the exact oil viscosity you should be running this winter. Engines don't die suddenly. They die in silence. You just learned how to stop it.